I did not have a vision of starting something on my own. I was just intrigued by the industry. I just wanted to know more because it fascinated me. And there came a time when I said, okay, this is the best time to sort of jump into this because, the government had started the Make in India program, etc. And I thought equipment leasing is something that can be really helpful in this kind of a situation and policy. So we jumped into it at that point in time when I thought I was fully prepared. To be very honest, entrepreneurial journey is not easy, and I don't think I've ever heard any entrepreneur saying, "Oh, it was damn easy," and I cracked the code in year one. No, we didn't either. We were broke for the first 2 years, time. But what we really did in those 2 years is we built our network and knowledge that helped us crack in the third year. And we started to take on clients. We started to build our own network within the industry. Welcome to another episode of the CHRO Exchange podcast. Today we have Ms. Preeti Ahuja, a transformative human resource leader with a unique blend of entrepreneurial grit and a corporate acumen. Ms. Preeti has played pivotal roles across sectors from co-founding and scaling Spearhead Financial Services to 230 crores and above, to shaping global talent strategies at Siddha Management and Evar Partner. Currently, she is the CHRO of Intellicap Avishkar Group. Welcome to the podcast, ma'am. So, ma'am, you've seen it all, whether it is consulting, whether it is investment, entrepreneurial grit, and now to impact investment. How do you identify and nurture talent as they come to your organization? And how has your journey been in each of these phases of your leadership? Thank you, firstly, Shoran, for inviting me to this. It's my pleasure. You're right. I have shifted into multiple industries at several points of my career. Thankfully for us, human resources is pretty much industry agnostic. So, it's not like it changes from, your strategies change completely from one to the other. However, having said that, you definitely need to customize your strategies and actions according to the industry and the company that you're in. Whether it is talent acquisition, talent management, or learning and development, everything needs to be customized. But at the end of the day, I think the philosophies sort of remain the same, except that you align those philosophies with the company that you're working with. How have I attracted talent in each of these industries is understanding the vision and mission of what the organization is trying to deliver. So, for example, at the Avishkar Group, at Intellicap, what we are trying to deliver is impact at scale, right? By supporting entrepreneurs. What does that require for us to do as an HR team? Is something that we needed to firstly understand. For me, consulting came naturally because, for a very long time, I worked with consulting firms and managing human resources globally for them. However, consulting in impact and solutioning in impact sector was completely new to me. Not that I cannot claim to have known it before entering it. However, after joining, I think it grew on me. Because when you discover that you're able to deliver profit along with delivering purpose and passion, that was exciting, right? Not many jobs can claim to satisfy you in delivering something, delivering a solution for the real world problem. That itself is exciting for a lot of, a lot of the crowd that apply to us and that we try to outreach to, right? This is the crowd that is very, very interested in today's time, especially people are very interested to know how are we changing the world. That's it, right? Everybody wants to deliver something that is very meaningful. And that's what you get at Intellicap and Avishkar. And so, what we need to do as an HR team is to deliver, to communicate that purpose and passion and attract individuals who come with similar drive. So, to make sense? Yes, absolutely. Some a lot of our viewers have let us know that, we should always go back to how a leader is formed. So, if we could go back to your childhood and how you began your journey in the human resources, if you can get some anecdotes, maybe that could shape the future or some of our leaders who are young leaders out there who are wanting to move into this space?
Sure, happy to. In terms of my childhood, I'd say what really helped me, Shonal, was being in sports and fitness activities. It just came naturally to us as a family. I have two brothers who were also into sports like me, and our parents were very encouraging and they kept pushing us to sort of pursue some of the other sports activity. Whether it was badminton or volleyball or through a ball or running a marathon. It just came very naturally to all of us. What sports really teaches you is resilience. I think it builds a foundation of resilience in personalities like ourselves. And that helps you push boundaries, take things to finish. And, when you try to connect the dots with that of the corporate world, these are the things, these are the behaviors that really matter. So I'm very, very thankful to that, aspect of my childhood. Even today, I try and play sports as much as I can. Given all of the other responsibilities, commitment is difficult. However, whatever opportunities we find, we end up playing or, exercising or doing yoga or doing something or the other related to fitness. It helps you push boundaries. And that's what helps you sort of explore your own capacity you never thought existed. Right? There was another part to the question that you had. Would you mind?
So there's some anecdotes that like shaped you into coming into human resources.
I'll be very honest. Coming into human resources was more accidental than planned. However, I do recollect being drawn to human resources as a subject when I was studying during my higher education. At work, coming into this particular field was mostly accidental. And I'm so thankful that it happened, Shonal, because I realized the amount of magic that we can create as human resources. It's phenomenal. If we really approach our role not as a support function, but as a business function, in which you're required to really understand the business well, understand how does your top line get generated, how does your bottom line get generated, what adds to it. These are the things that will help you deliver and craft human resources. So typically it's how you look and understand business is how you're going to craft and deliver human resources, and not vice versa. Generally, you will see most HR departments, unfortunately, and even I have learned the hard way, right? Most HR departments will form strategies which may not align with business strategies, or they do not understand business needs. So you have to work the other way down, to first understand what are we as a business trying to deliver and what that delivery would require for you to add to, right? Like how can you add to the to delivery of that business function. Once you understand that, and then you work backwards and see what are the actions you need to take in order to be able to contribute to the bottom line and top line of the business.
Absolutely. So I think that aligns with what my next question was, that, how do you strategically align the business needs and the needs of the company? Like, let's talk about talent, right? So retaining talent and nurturing the best of the talent within an organization has always been a sort of a tipping point for all organizations, whether they do it well or they don't do it well. So, what sort of leadership programs or certain activities you have here at IntelliCap at Avishka Group to nurture a future talent and within organization within the for the employees?
Actually, that's a great question, and I think one of my favorite ones, to be honest, because working with talent is extremely close to what we do as a human resource, especially in the business that we are in at Avishka and an IntelliCap. We are a business of talent. The only asset we have is that of talent. And so it becomes extremely important for talent to be considered as a business function. There are several activities and strategies that we have incorporated over the last couple of years in the group. But some of them are really, keeping it simple, really, like not overcomplicating things. If you just look at step-by-step process of how you attract talent, to how you sort of onboard them, to how you manage them, how do you help them manage their careers, are they developing and growing in your institution? Because ultimately, growth is self-satisfying, right? So if you're helping your talent grow within the institution, I think that kind of helps you retain talent. So just to give you few examples and of what we do, right from the get go when they're trying to attract talent, and listen, impact is a small industry. Yet so the talent pool is not so huge. And so you have to look at talent pool from outside the box. So you have to look at other industries, adjacent industries, to look at adaptable skills and competencies from other industries that can fill your gaps. So some of things like during talent acquisition, ensuring that when you're getting a talent on board, you're not trying to fit a round peg in a square hole, or a square, or a vice versa, right? Getting the right person in the right role at the right fitment is extremely important for us. Somebody who shares the purpose that we are trying to deliver, that of impact, is extremely important for us. So, those are some of the things that we try to do to ensure we're getting the right talent pool on board. The other activities we do is when we get them on board, we ensure they're very well inducted into the system, not leaving any room for them to sort of guess, oh, what am I supposed to do next? Where have I landed, etc. Right? So making sure that they're well connected. It's our job to ensure we enable a well connected organization, right? So ensuring that there are various ways in which they are well connected, whether it is a mentor program or a people manager program or a buddy program. All of these programs are basically designed to ensure they understand that they are being taken care of. There is a support system around them for whenever they need, and there are people taking care of careers and career tracking their careers and their growth individually for each one of them. Right. So I think some of the things that we did are these.
So, coming back to the new age technologies that are there, right? So, AI is a buzzword that is being used by every other organization. And especially with the fear that AI is going to take over people, jobs, and that fear has become more and more real over time. So, now what are your thoughts and take on that? Do you feel that could actually ever happen, or it's going to augment and rather help us other than take jobs away?
So I see it as an opportunity overall. Yeah, for many years now, I've been excited about AI and technology and human resources. At the time that even today, not many of us are fully aware of what AI can or cannot do in businesses, right? But overall, I'm pretty excited at the prospects of what it can do. However, we need to be slightly more careful because AI is driven by the input you share. So the outcome that you will generate is basically going to be based on the traditional patterns that you will be sharing as input, and hence you need to be careful of what patterns you're generating, because it tends to silo into a particular structure if you don't give it the length and breadth of your work. You see, so AI in general is a boon. Whether it will take away jobs, no, it won't take away jobs. I think, and most HR fraternity who I have been talking to and meeting, everybody is super excited. What is because it will make our work only more efficient. So it will make businesses more effective and efficient. Um, what it will do is it will probably cut down on the number of people required to do a particular job. However, that will also open up doors for other activities that can be done. Right. Or it will open up doors for you to do more than what we are able to do right now. Also, because as humans, we are limited by our capacity. However, AI improves your capacity. So if I was able to do, just take an example, if I was able to do learning and development program, let's say for one cohort in one particular year, and let's say I was doing 5 programs, that can multiply now to 10 programs because of AI. So it's not like it's going to take away the jobs of the learning and development team. It's actually going to augment what we really do. So to answer your question, yes, overall it will augment.
Great. So, ma'am, if we could come back to your personal well-being, and how do you maintain work-life harmony, like amidst your busy role and handling such an organization with such great vision? How do you balance that out? And what are your what is your vision on it? How do you plan on doing the same in now and forever?
See, for me, for a long time now, I have been following work life integration, modern balance. It's very difficult to compartmentalize your life into various sectors and say from 9 to 5 I'm going to do this and 5 to 6 I'm going. It's more like integration. It also helps us to integrate at Avishkar is because we have flexible work environment. So let's say during the day I had an hour of chores to sort of run outside and errands to run. I could do that, get delivered on the outcome that I was supposed to deliver by working an hour extra home or at work wherever I am that particular day, right? So flexibility that we have ensures integration and well integration. So integration across, in fact, all of the team members that I know typically look into integration than balancing, and I think that works wonderfully for most of us. How I plan to continue doing this is precisely like that. I mean, make it more efficient. We spoke about AI. Maybe our jobs will become more efficient, but with the additional time that we end up saving, we might be able to do a lot more for the organization and for the world than what we are currently doing.
Absolutely. So, like, we on to that. Like, how do you keep on with the trends? Like, how do you keep yourself abreast of the happenings around the world? What are some of your favorite ways to do that? And I think everyone looks for those certain podcasts, certain YouTube channels that leaders follow. What are your some of your go-to channels that you subscribe?
So I do read HBR a lot. HBR, People Matters, yeah, ET, HR. These are some of my favorite reads for me to keep myself updated because there's so much research that goes into the articles and the knowledge articles that they publish. It really helps me keep myself updated on what's going on. And sometimes, honestly, it just turns out that I've been thinking about a problem and suddenly I read an article which kind of addresses exactly. It's kind of manifestation as well. It addresses that sort of the problem that I was thinking. So yeah, I do keep myself abreast by reading some of these progressive publications. Beyond that, I think networking with people inside and outside of this HR industry as well, because like we said, HR can solve problems only when you understand business problems. And so it's important for me to connect with business folks as well with the network that I built over the years. I like to understand business perspectives, whether in my own industry, my own organization, or outside. In addition to talking and networking with the HR peers and mentors that I have.
Great. So now moving on to my favorite question. You're part of our academic advisory board here at Masters Women, and you'll be sort of sitting at the helm of industry education alignment. And there are a lot of students out there who could, expect guidance, who would want to learn a lot and would want to understand in order to be in, for example, in IntelliCap or Apishka group, how would they shape themselves? Like, what are some of the X factors that they need in themselves or maybe build it over time to be in an organization?
Sure, that's a good question as well, and very, very relevant in today's times. Whether at Avishkar Group, IntelliCap, Avishkar Capital, or anywhere even outside, right? The answer kind of remains the same. You have to be an individual that solves problems. Yeah. For everything else, there is AI.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to understand how to analyze a problem, how to come up with solutions and ideas that a technology can't do for you. Technology can analyze data, but how do you build stories out of that data? What kind of insights do you generate for yourself as well as the businesses to be able to solve some of the world's biggest problems? So having a solution oriented mindset, thinking about problem solving, but at the same time, behavioral aspects is something that that will be more valuable than before, are the attitude that you carry, because that's something again technology can't teach you. The learning, the development, the thinking ability, those things are not going to go anywhere. Those things are always going to be in demand, whether it is conflict resolution. So human to human interaction is something that will become even more valuable now than before. Yeah, absolutely. And so my advice to students would be to build themselves as formidable human beings, to build their behavioral aspects, much more than what I think we did in our past, because we depended on a lot of other aspects. But now, because everything else is going to be taken care of by technology and artificial intelligence, human intelligence becomes prime most important.
So, ma'am, a lot of our students at Masters in it are building their own ventures in our venture initiation program. And since CEO co-founded the Spirit Financial Services to 230 crores and above, what are your certain views and how did you begin it from scratch? If there's certain anecdote stories you can bring, that really exciting.
Yeah, patience is the key, Shuman. Because in today's world, as we see, instant gratification is something that that people look forward to. However, that was not the case, in my situation when I really, decided to jump into my entrepreneurial venture. I had 8 years of background and research into this particular sector of equipment leasing. It did not come overnight, and I did not, at the time when I was kind of on the sidelines of my work, when I was trying to read, learn, network, I did not have a vision of starting something on my own. I was just intrigued by the industry. I just wanted to know more because it fascinated me. And there came a time when I said, okay, this is the best time to sort of jump into this, because, the government had started the Make in India program, etc. And I thought equipment leasing is something that can be really helpful in this kind of a situation and policy. So we jumped into it at that point in time, when I thought I was fully prepared. Uh, to be very honest, entrepreneurial journey is not easy, and I don't think I've ever heard any entrepreneur saying, "Oh, it was damn easy," and I cracked the code in year one. No, we didn't either. We were broke for the first 2 years, time. But what we really did in those 2 years is we built our network and knowledge. That helped us crack in the third year. And we started to take on clients. We started to build our own network within the industry. We found the funders within this particular industry who were ready to fund the clients that we brought on board. So we were able to build a business of about 230 plus crores. This is the equipment leasing business. This is not the revenue of the firm, but the overall business that we brought into equipment leasing was this number. It came about with a lot of hard work. And again, I did speak about resilience at some point. And other than sports, this is another area that teaches you resilience, because when people shut doors on your face, when you're trying to approach clients and you have to keep going on without taking it to your ego, that ego has to let go. Only then you will be able to, you'll be successful at entrepreneur, because it really requires that grit, patience, determination, and the will to go on and on till you make it. So it was not an industry that was a new idea, no, but execution was key. So any idea is just about 10 to 20% of the job. 80% of the job in any business, and this is for your students, is that of execution. Meticulous execution, meticulous planning, networking with the right people, getting to know, sit on the right table, providing the right solutions, building and customizing the right solutions for your clients. Those are some of the things that you will need to do. Again, I can't take names of clients and funders, but these are some of the things that we did We also looked into industries who did not traditionally believe in leasing, because India as a country does not believes in owning things rather than leasing things. So it was difficult for us to break some of the mental barriers with the CXOs who we met. And thankfully we did. We were able to break through those barriers and create the businesses that we did. So, what really worked for us, like I said, and I'm going to repeat that again, is patience, trait, resilience, determination, and the will to just go on if you believe in what you're trying to serve.
Absolutely, ma'am. I think that's crucial.